This video will cover keys to help you become a genius strategic thinker. This video is for leaders and for aspiring leaders in the business world to help you anticipate challenges, make better decisions, and prepare yourself for long-term leadership success. Because when we look at what strategic thinking is, this website I found sums it up perfectly. They say it's the ability to analyze complex situations, anticipate potential outcomes, and formulate well-considered plans to achieve long-term objectives. All of this is critical to success in leadership, and all of the CEOs and C-suite leaders you can think of would definitely have skills in this area. In fact, they probably use this skill in order to get the high-level job that they have. Now, you may have noticed that the definition of strategic thinking includes these 4 elements, which you will see on the screen right now. Now, at the end of this video, I will go through an example of how a leader can put into practice strategic thinking using these 4 elements. But first, let's look at how to become a genius strategic thinker so you can work towards developing these 4 elements yourself. The first thing that's important is that you stay informed. This means that you need to be aware of the external and the internal environment that can impact your company, your team, and also the long-term goals that your company might have. Now, more specifically, this means you need to stay informed and be informed about market conditions, technology advances like AI, political changes, internal organizational shifts, competitors' movements, and overall industry changes. Staying informed of these things is really important because it helps you to increase awareness of what is going on around you. Awareness sharpens your critical thinking because you start to see how these forces can impact your organization. Essentially, you get better at seeing the link between your environment and the changes that are going on around you and your organizational goals. Staying informed is also important because this kind of knowledge gives you a competitive advantage, and you have to remember that not everybody spends time learning about their environment around them. Not everybody spends time staying informed. Not all leaders allocate time to read, to listen, to watch resources, to learn about things that are going on around them. You need to make a proactive allocation of time for this. Staying informed is also important because this kind of knowledge helps you to anticipate challenges and identify opportunities better because you're more in tune with what is going on around you. You have your finger on the pulse, so to speak, which in turn can help you make proactive decisions rather than reactive ones simply because you know what's going on. So we've established what you need to stay informed of and why it's important. Next, we need to look at how you can stay informed so you can become a genius strategic thinker. The first suggestion I have for you is to listen very attentively during meetings. This is where deep conversations happen, where potentially great ideas are uncovered, and where challenges are identified. So you can listen in on meetings that are happening within your own team or within your own department, and if possible, try to listen in on meetings that are happening in other departments as well, because this will help you get a more rounded and overall understanding of the organization and what is impacting each department and various teams in those departments at different levels. Another suggestion is to have conversations with colleagues in your company and in your industry to find out what is going on in their world. This is a great place or great way that you can find out new information. Ask questions as much as you can in meetings and in those conversations you're going to have with your colleagues and people in the industry. If you want an idea of other resources that you can learn from so that you can stay informed, then during the conversations you have with your colleagues in your company or in your industry, why not ask them what they watch, what they listen to, and what they read? Learn the resources that they learn from, because this will help you to stay informed in a number of different ways. I recommend you start with industry print journals and magazines. You could also look at industry newsletters. So for this, try to identify who is an influencer or who is an expert in your industry. And if they have a newsletter, sign up to their newsletter. LinkedIn is a great place to find out who these influencers or who these experts are, and quite often within the LinkedIn platform, these people will actually have newsletters that you can sign up to. So look at LinkedIn to find out who these people are. On top of that, you can also look at mainstream news websites that are in your geographical location, because this will give you an idea of what's going on in that physical area, that geographical area where your company is operating in. Then also look at other websites like Forbes, like Fast Company, and also other industry websites that are around that will give you some information as to what is going on around you to help you stay informed. One thing I don't recommend you to do is to look at Facebook news and rely on that, okay? So try to stay away from Facebook news and look at more reputable news websites to get your information from. Staying informed also means that you have to be aware of the organizational goals so that you can align your decisions with them. This is a really important part of becoming a genius strategic thinker, like I mentioned earlier in this video. You need to be able to see the link between your environment or the changes that are going on around you and the broader organizational goals, because this high-level view or high-level understanding is going to help you make better and more strategic decisions as well. I understand that becoming aware of organizational goals might not happen if you are entry or even mid-level in your career, simply because you're not involved in those types of conversations yet. So if that's the category that you fit into, then I recommend that you try to identify and then connect with people who are more high level in your company so you can start to understand what those organizational goals are. Or use other methods that I mentioned in the previous point when I talked about staying informed so that you can build your knowledge in this area. Now, I think it's important to note at this point in the video that it's really easy to focus just on short-term goals or just on the short-term problems that you are experiencing right now and to neglect the long-term impact of those problems or of the decisions that you are making. So I want to spend a minute talking about this. Focusing on and attending to short-term only can make you feel like you're doing great things for the company. The business can function day to day. The tasks that need to be achieved, they are done, and small problems that might crop up, well, they are taken care of. The decisions you need to make in this respect are relatively easy and therefore quick. You don't get bogged down in decision overload or decision fatigue, which can be a big problem for many leaders. And those goals or the issues that you're attending to, they're easier to solve. Therefore, you see results faster, which makes you feel like you're doing a great job for the company. But deep strategic thinking mostly happens when you're involved in the long-term goals or when you're looking at the long-term impact of your decisions. This is deeper thinking, it's harder thinking, it's more challenging thinking, and because of that, most leaders don't even attempt it. If you want to become a genius strategic thinker, then you need to not make this same mistake. So I encourage you to step in to this more challenging, this even scary way of thinking. To help you, there is a mental model that will train your brain to see the long-term consequences of your decisions so you can become more strategic in the decisions that you make. It's called second order thinking, and I have covered it in another one of my YouTube videos. But briefly, second order thinking is where you map out the ripple effects or the long-term effects of a decision, both positive and not so positive, so you can understand whether your decision is a good one or not. It basically helps you to anticipate long-term impact of your decision so that you can mitigate risks or so that you can identify long-term opportunities as well. If you want to learn more about second order thinking, then I encourage you to watch this video up here where I talk about it in much more detail. Now, in my business, I quickly understood that you can't get stuck in short-term thinking, because when you do, you can easily be overtaken by the competition because they are looking at the long-term goals, but you are not. Also, you miss opportunities because you're not staying informed of market conditions, of technological advances, of political changes, of internal organizational shifts, of competitors' movements, or of general changes in the industry you operate in. Remember, these are all the things that I talked about in point 1 of this video. And in my business, to deal with this, I created a mental model for myself called short-term, long-term. And this helps me to make more balanced decisions towards both the short-term and the long-term goals that I have. If you want to learn more about this mental model I created, then I encourage you to watch this video up here. In becoming a genius strategic thinker, even though it is difficult, you do at times need to have your own perspective challenged. I say it's difficult because we can become attached to our ideas. We come up with them and we think they're great. And when somebody else comes in and challenges that idea, we get defensive. We see it as a critique of our intelligence, or even like they are trying to erase the experience that we have built. So we immediately become defensive, we put up a block, and we don't listen to whatever suggestion or perspective they want to share. But this is your ego talking, and ego can be a really damaging thing. It can prevent you from seeing the truth or from seeing better ideas or different perspectives. More to the point, it can damage your ability to think strategically. So I encourage you to practice humility, curiosity, and to be agile in your mind. Listen to feedback. Consider your idea to be a work in progress so that you will be more open to hearing other people's perspectives. And remember, it's about the best decision for the organization, not a show of your intellect. Now, let's look at a quick example of strategic thinking. By staying informed of technological advances, a leader learns about this thing called AI. Now, at first, they think it's just a gimmick and it's going to quickly pass by. But then they realize it's staying around and that they should perhaps spend some time learning about what AI is and to identify any potential problems or challenges for the company, or even potential opportunities that it could present the company as well. So using the 4 steps that I shared at the beginning of this video when we looked at the definition of strategic thinking, the leader first analyzed the situation. They researched AI and also the 4th industrial revolution. They read industry publications so that they could learn a bit more about what AI is and how it's going to impact the company and the industry. They talked to colleagues and looked at what the competitors were doing with AI and how they were approaching this new technological advancement. The second thing the leader did was they anticipated potential outcomes, and in doing this, they used second-order thinking, which helped them to identify a tremendous opportunity if the company implemented AI. They saw that it could help to make processes a lot more efficient, it could help cut costs, and it could help to make the company a lot more competitive too. But they also identified challenges up ahead as well if they did implement AI into the company. This means they would have to let go of some staff who were no longer needed, which could impact and decrease and damage employee morale in the company. And also the constant game of keeping up with technological advances and also what the competition is doing can be really exhausting. And if you're not careful, it can easily derail your organization from its core objectives and from the core long-term goals that it has. The third thing that leader did was to formulate a plan to adopt AI and to train some people in the company to be able to use AI for various work processes. But they also decided to train some people to have higher level thinking, to have creative thinking, strategic thinking ability, so that they could always see the big picture and not get lost in the smaller or short-term market movements. And the fourth thing the leader looked at was to achieve the long-term goals, and they believe that this approach that they have to adopting AI but doing it in a careful way would help them to still achieve the long-term goals and objectives for the company. Now, in strategic thinking, being decisive is paramount. You need to be able to make firm decisions and make those decisions quickly. If you want to learn how to improve your decision-making ability, then you can learn that in this video up here. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to learn more from me, then check out my podcast, check out my weekly newsletter, my Udemy courses as well. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week in another video.